What did you think from looking over there about the Gold Rush?
Yeah, no, it was a terrific. You've done a terrific job over there, and really admired what they put together over the last month or so. And I know your little venture on Fridays has been going extremely well as well to complement all of that. I just worry. I know there's a lot of owners in Super Smink, but geez, it doesn't get much luck.
No luck at all.
It's one of those horses that just seems to run into traffic all of the time.
Certainly does. Chris Parnham got 17 days too for the ride on Super Smink, and he's elected to take that straight away last night. Some other jocks over east, your way, Nashville Willer. Gee, you never die wondering with Nash, do you?
No.
He's got 6 days. Joshy Parr 8 days. Tom Sherry has got 10 days. And back to Bryce Cotton, he set an NBL record of 4 consecutive 40-plus games. He has been lighting it up, hasn't he?
He certainly has. Edwards was going all right last night for Cairns as well at that time, but it was Bryce again, and we spoke about it a month ago when he was out injured, and Pinder and a few others were stepping up, and people saying, oh, well, they don't really need Bryce Cotton. Well, guess what? Yes, they do.
And, of course, we had Shane Train's greyhound go around last night in the final of the Silver Chief. No luck there. It was just bang from pillar to post, taken out by Epitomise. Winning the race from Deadly Avenger, Giacomo and Paul Corn. But we open the batting with Simon Hill, as we love to every Sunday morning. A very good morning, Simon.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Really good, Simon. Welcome to the show. It's fantastic to have you aboard. And, well, plenty of games played overnight, including a 4-0 win to Newcastle over Leicester City.
Yeah, they needed that win as well, Newcastle. They put together an unwanted 4-game winless streak, and also a first defeat for Ruud van Nistelrooy as Leicester City manager after taking over from Steve Cooper. Quite straightforward, this one. Jacob Murphy with 2, Bruno Guimaraes, and another one for Alexander Isak, who's having a good season. So Newcastle up to 11th, which is not where they want to be honest. They think they should be challenging for the top 4, but it's pretty tight at the top of the table. It's been a strange old season so far in the Premier League. Leicester, they've got other things on their mind at the bottom of the table, and they've got a game against Wolves at home next week, which is a real 6-pointer for both teams, I think.
A couple of draws and sort of upset result draws, I thought. Anyhow, Arsenal, Everton 0-0 and Liverpool, Fulham 2-2.
Yeah, let's start with Arsenal's goalless draw against Everton at the Emirates. A real frustrating afternoon for Arsenal, who missed the chance to close the gap on Liverpool at the top because, of course, they're the leaders at the moment. 76% possession for Arsenal, 13 shots, couldn't find a way through. Jordan Pickford in great form for Everton, who only mustered 2 shots on target at the other end. And that's a second consecutive draw for Arsenal. They're a bit up and down. They were held by Fulham as well last weekend. So they'll be ruining those missed opportunities because Liverpool slipped up, as you rightly said, 2-2 at home to Fulham. Might have been worse, to be honest. They had Andy Robertson sent off early on in the first half. Diogo Jota rescuing a point with just a few minutes to go for the home side. Andres Pereira put Fulham in front after 11 minutes, and Andy Robertson was sent off just 5 minutes later. Cody Gakpo got the equaliser just after half-time. Rodrigo Muniz for Fulham making it 2-1 before Jota's late intervention. So similar to Arsenal, that's consecutive draws now after the 3-3 rip-roaring contest against Newcastle and last week's Merseyside derby washout because of Storm Darragh. So Liverpool, yeah, I mean, they're still top, but Chelsea can close the gap today. And I'm looking at it thinking with my boys, Man City, if we can win the Manchester derby, which we'll talk about later, we'll be back to within 6 points of Liverpool. At one point, it was 11. And people were saying, well, it's no chance. Now, you know, Liverpool would still have a game in hand over City as well. But, yeah, it's becoming very interesting because these teams are struggling for consistency at the moment at the top.
Simon, you mentioned Wolves, a red card in that game. They lost 2-1 to Ipswich, and Forest defeated Aston Villa 2-1.
Yeah, it's all going horribly wrong for Wolves. They thought they had a point. Matt Doherty, calamitous own goal, giving Ipswich the lead, which is rather indicative of their season. But Mateus Cunha had seemingly got them a point, and then Jack Taylor in the 93rd minute heading home the winner for Ipswich, a result that piles on the pressure for Gary O'Neill. The fans very vocal, demonstrating against the owners after the game, and ugly scenes on the final whistle as well. Ryan Ait-Nouri and Cunha involved in on-field confrontations with some of the Ipswich players. Ait-Nouri was shown a red card in the tunnel after all the players had departed the field. And the upshot is that Gary O'Neill has now lost 11 of 16 games this season. Now, in his defence, they've sold a lot of good quality players. And I think he made that point at the press conference afterwards. But you know what the Premier League is like. It's unforgiving. And he's got to be walking the tightrope now with Wolves very firmly embedded in the bottom three. The other end, Forest are up to fourth. 2-1 win over Aston Villa. More late drama in this one. John Duran had given Villa the lead with his 11th of the season. A rare start for him. He's pushing his case for a regular start over Ollie Watkins. But 2 goals in the final few minutes. Nikola Milenkovic first with the equaliser in the 87th. And then Anthony Elanga coming off the bench to net the winner in injury time. So Forest are having a great season. And we mentioned Wolves a couple of minutes ago. Their former boss, Nuno Espirito Santo, they would love to have him back, I'm sure,
yes.
Molyneux. But he's doing great things at Forest at the moment.
He certainly is. They are having... I can't remember. When's the last time they would have been up in this sort of territory, Simon?
Long time ago. Probably the early to mid-90s under Frank Clark. I think they finished fourth in 93, 94 or third, something like that. Got into the what was then called the UEFA Cup, but obviously they've had a long spell out of the Premier League. So,
yes.
Yeah, this is nosebleed territory for them at the moment, reminiscent of the Brian Clough days.
Certainly is. Let's have a look at these matches that'll be played today, and you preempted the big derby coming up. But we'll start with Brighton and Crystal Palace. They're $1.87, the Seagulls, $3.70 and $4. Then the derby, City $1.61, draw $4.20, United $5.10. And we'll round out with Chelsea Brentford. They're $1.30, Chelsea $5.80, Brentford $9. And then the big one here for Ange, Southampton $4.50, draw $4.40, and Spurs $1.65.
Did you say United were $5.10 and City were $1.61?
Correct.
Goodness me, that's brave from the bookies, given City's current form, to be honest. 1 win in 10 games, and Pep Guardiola's got no defenders. Akanji and Ake out. I think they've only got 3 fit. One of those, Carl Walker's having an absolute nightmare at the moment. Rico Lewis suspended, and he was asked in the press conference, what's his defence going to look like? And he said, I don't know. Wow. I've got to think about it. I haven't got any players. So, even though they're at home, and they've got a good record against United at home, and again, in mitigation, United are not exactly in great form either. They've lost their last 2, only 1 away win this season. But, I mean, that one is literally, I think, flip of a coin. If I was going to put money on it, I would probably say a draw is probably the safest outcome, which might earn you a bit of cash. The other games, Brighton against Palace. I mean, this is a derby of sorts. I think it's called the M23 derby. It's not strictly a derby, but Brighton and Palace have an enmity. I don't know if you know this, that goes back to the 1950s when they were both in the old Third Division South. They hate each other. Wow. So this will be a real tense clash as well. Brighton unbeaten in the last 6 against Palace, but this is the key stat. Again, I'm going to go for the draw. 4 of those last 6 have been draws. So, I'd be going for the stalemate in that one. Chelsea-Brentford. Chelsea in great form at the moment. Brentford always have a puncher's chance because they've got goals in that team, particularly from Johan Wissa and Brian Mbeumo. And Chelsea haven't actually won any of the last 5 against Brentford, but they're going so well this season. They were able to rest all their big players for the Conference League game against Astana in Kazakhstan during the week. I think Chelsea will win that one quite comfortably. And the Southampton-Spurs game, goodness me. Who knows what to expect from Spurs? They've been on such a poor run since defeating Manchester City, and you're right in saying that this is a huge game for Ange Postecoglou. If they lose this game, I think he's going to be under all sorts of pressure to keep his job, because Southampton are bottom of the table. They've only won 1 game all season. He's still got injuries. No Van der Ven, no Romero, no Ben Davis, Bentancur and Basuma, both suspended as well. But again, this is just the sort of game when the pressure is on that Spurs will go there and win. So I'm going to tip them to win, but if they don't, watch out, Ange.
Quickly to the A-League. What a goal fest we had over the weekend. United keep on, Adelaide United doing what they normally do. What about the game between Sydney FC and Western United? Unfortunately, the Glory couldn't find the back of the net.
Yeah, let's start with Sydney and Western United. Crazy seesaw game, this one, which ends with back-to-back losses for Sydney in the A-League, despite a double from Adrian Segacic. A very young Western United team managing to win the game. And, again, Sydney had fought back to 3-3 at one point. You fancied they'd go on and win it. But Michael Roos racing away to score the winner with 3 minutes to go. So that's a big confidence boost that for Western United. Great entertainment, that game. Unfortunately, it's not good for Glory at the moment. David Zdrilic, again, issuing an apology to fans after the game for a rather limp display, particularly defensively. The issue is for Glory, it's been the same all season, they're just too easy to score against. They fall like, wet cardboard when the ball gets in the penalty area and able to win it quite easily. Thomas Aquilina, Lachlan Bayliss with his first goal in the early, 2 for Ben Gibson, his first in the competition as well. And that was the scoreline after 46 minutes, and it could have been a lot worse, to be honest. So only 2 shots on target for Glory. Rumours of off-field financial problems as well during the week. 22 goals conceded in 7 games. That tells its own story. They've got to get their act together pretty quickly. Big window coming up in January. I think they need 2 or 3 really good players. But, the pressure's on. And next week, by the way, they go to Brisbane, who are equally in dire straits. So I think some people are already christening it the Spoon Derby, but hopefully Glory can pick up.
Yeah, Marty got the markets quickly for today's game, Auckland and Melbourne City. Your thoughts?
Yeah, top of the table, Auckland, and no stopping them at the moment. Melbourne City, this is a good game, Simon, should be a beauty. Melbourne City 233, draw 365, Auckland at 280.
Again, running the risk of getting splinters in my backside, I'm going to go for the draw. I think Melbourne City will finally end Auckland's winning run, and yet they've lost both home matches, strangely enough, City at Amy Park this season. They've won 4 out of 6. They've all been on the road. But I think this is perhaps the first real test for Auckland. Not that they've not come up against decent opposition before, but most of their games have been played in New Zealand, and Amy Park has been a real graveyard for New Zealand teams in the past. 48 visits by the various iterations of clubs from New Zealand in the A-League, and just 3 wins.
Wow.
So I just fancy it. It might be. I don't think they're going to lose today, but I think it might be a draw.
You've been throwing some stats at us today, Simon. That's a beauty. 3 from 48. Just before we go, let's bring our listeners up to date with the table in the A-League, the top 6. It's Auckland, Adelaide, Victory, Melbourne City, Macarthur, Wellington. So, can you see this top 6 changing much from here on in?
Well, there's barely a cigarette paper between 4th and 9th. There's only 3 points. So, and some, 1 or 2 teams have played more games than the other because, of course, this season we've got 13 games, so we've got this ridiculous bye situation. I certainly think that the teams at the top have shown consistency, particularly that top 4. The rest, bar the bottom 2, Glory and Brisbane, they're still very much in contention. There's a long way to go yet. Sydney, for me, are probably the team that can break into the upper echelons, but they've been wildly inconsistent. Ditto, Western Sydney Wanderers, who remain down in 10th. They could have been 6th had they won last night, but they drew against Brisbane 2-2. So, certainly spots 5 and 6, I think, are up for grabs. The top 4 probably a little bit better than the rest at the moment.
Okay, Simon, hope you can break this exasperating run of outs for Man City against Man United in the big derby tonight.
Oh, God, yeah. It's going to be a long night and a lot of bitten fingernails, but there we go. It's worth the broken sleep if we win.
All the best. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, guys. Have a good week.
Simon Hill, as he always does. Bradley, we're about to catch up with Tash Faithfull. She joins us right now on the Aftermath.
Well done.
Good morning, Tash.
Good morning, Marty. Good morning, Brad. Thanks for having me this morning.
Morning, Tash. Well done yesterday. I backed you on one. I had to say it. It was named after Marty, Crunchy Nut.
I thought you were going to say Mary B. I got to say, hey, Tash, let's talk about both your wins very quickly, but the Mary B's win looks to be a bit of a horse to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, her form was really good leading into Esperance, and Helen does a good job with those horses that need a bit more one-on-one care, and I think she's done a great job with her, and it's good to get a result for Helen.
Well done, Tash. Congratulations. And you're heading to Geraldton today, and a lot of work to do for the Pierce clan in particular. Let's have a look at race one. Number one, Art Session, could get us off to a start, get off to a flyer.
Yeah, we hope so. I think the main thing for him is if he jumps. It looks like if he jumps, he's going to be very hard to beat. Looked like he missed the kick and then ran a not-so-great race. So, yeah, I think if he jumps, he's going to be very hard to beat today.
It's great to see these city trainers that have been going up to Geraldton, and also we saw Mickey G go down to Albany on whatever day that was, Thursday. But, the Pierces have taken some very good horses to Geraldton today, and this is one of them. Always been a bit of a rap on Art Session, and you would think, as you just said, Tash, the horse out of the barriers, and it's probably going to run to his quote of $1.75, so fingers crossed that happens in the first. We then go to race number 2, and you're riding one here for Peter Daly. I don't know if you know much about it. Mexican Queen, she's running first up.
Yeah, he actually gave me a little bit of confidence. He said that she's doing a lot right behind the scenes. She sort of ran a pretty good race first up at Carnarvon, and second up she'd hurt herself in the float, so dismissed that run. But he said he's really happy with her. She's grown a lot, and thinks that she can run a bit of a sneaky race today.
Ooh.
Yeah, race 3 again for the Pierces. Desert Edge, first up over a mile.
Yeah, he's a bit of a big grinding type, so I think the mile's going to suit him. He's drawn a nice barrier, and doesn't look like there's too much depth to that race, so you think that he'll be right there in the finish.
Okay, into race number 4 again for the Pierces. Second up, a striking fella. Looks to be a pretty good race for it.
Yeah, same thing. He's drawn pretty low, so should be getting a really nice run in transit, and probably the weakest race that he's ran into for a while. So, yeah, you should think that he'd be very hard to beat today.
Form out of its last race looks pretty good now, doesn't it, after Papaviro Princess's effort yesterday. Bradley, you're up to the plate.
Yes, well, this one creates a bit of interest for me because Starring Night, as Tash is on that again for the Pierces, it seems to improve second up. Tash.
Yeah, he seems to like he's had a fair bit of ability on and off throughout his career. Same thing, he's drawn like a pretty nice gate, and you think he's going to get just a nice little run tucked in behind him. So looks like the kind of race that he could bounce back to the winning form.
Now, in the next race, Surf Patrol, you won on this horse down at Albany, watched it. It was a good win, good closing win. Confident can take the next step here in stronger company?
Yeah, absolutely. He's actually such a beautiful horse. I said to the Pierces, once he's fully matured, I think he's going to end up a nice town horse for him. He's got plenty of ability, but he's just a bit of a big, raw sort of horse. He's got a bit of learning to do, but looks like it should be a pretty easy task again today for him here, and I assume that he'll probably go out for a little spell after today and then come back and shape up in town, I think.
Oh, and you won't die wondering today because you've got another ride in the last, Just Handy for the Mackenzie clan. What do you do between races? Sudoku?
Yoga?
Just Handy. He actually rang me to ride First Contact, and then he rang me back again and said, I'd actually really like you to ride Just Handy. I think he's going a bit better, and I think he's not far off winning. So I said, yeah, absolutely. Don't mind riding her, sorry. Hopefully she can run well like he suggested.
Well, you're not allowed to tip, we know that, but which one do you feel as though you've got your best chance to breast the tape with?
It'd be pretty hard to go past the first one, I think.
Art Session.
Probably that one and Surf Patrol. Yeah, Art Session and Surf Patrol probably both look like they've got a fair bit of ability. So,
Tash, obviously from what you just said, you do your own bookings?
Yes, I do. Yep.
And being busy, there's meetings left, right and centre, and you seem to be riding at all of them at the moment. How are you handling the workload?
Yeah, I like to keep myself busy. I prefer to do my own bookings. I kind of a little bit of a control freak. I don't really like other people picking and choosing what I'm riding. So I kind of enjoy talking to the trainers and seeing how they're going and sort of trying to pick and choose the best rides. But yeah, keeping myself pretty busy, but I love it. So it's good.
It's like working with Marty, a control freak, Tash. Yeah. I can tell you that.
Someone's got to push the buttons.
just quickly, Tash. You know, with the horses, when they have that tendency to miss the start, what can you do? I mean, it's frustrating for a punter. I'm just saying as the layman now. What do you try and concentrate on to try and make sure that a horse doesn't sort of go backwards or just miss the kick by a half a length or so?
Yeah, it is pretty frustrating. Like, my biggest thing is I'll have someone up in the gates with him, just giving him a pat and sort of playing around with him, keeping him a little bit interested so he doesn't switch off. And I sort of tend to turn the head to the left for most of the time, and then sort of the last bit turn it forward, so they sort of have that look forward and then hopefully jump. But yeah, fingers crossed everything goes right for art session.
And Tash, just having a look at your season so far, 39 winners but 40 seconds. So has it been a little bit of a frustrating year so far?
I think early in the season it definitely was. I hadn't had many winners and I was running a lot of seconds, and you start sort of butting your head against the wall and start sort of overthinking, overanalyzing everything, working out, what you could have done different to just get that, horse to win instead of run second. But definitely, I think the second half of the season so far has been riding a lot more winners and, yeah, picked up a bit more.
Yep. So it should be a great day up at Geraldton for you today. Fingers crossed it all goes to plan. Thanks for coming on this morning.
That's all right, yes. Fingers crossed. Thanks, guys.
She's Tash Faithfull. Never stops riding winners all over the state. Lovely to have her on the program, Brad.
Oh, fantastic. Esperance yesterday, Geraldton today. Have rides, we'll go.
Yep.
It's fantastic. It's a great attitude to have.
Well, we'll find out what happened over east with our boys coming up next.
Sunday morning, Tab Radio Racing and Sport is turned on. And you are listening to the dulcet tones of Marty Young and Brad Hardie on the After.
Oh, yes. What about this man, Chris Nelson? A very good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, Marty. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Chris. Great to be with you, my friend. Terrific day's racing at Randwick yesterday, and unfortunately, when we talk a little bit further north, the rain ruined the meeting pretty much.
Oh, I'll tell you what, guys. The forecast was for between 0 and 15 mils, and we had over 70.
Yeah.
So there you go. Got that one wrong.
It bucketed down. I could not believe that yesterday, Chris, thinking that it was going to be like a good 4, soft 5, somewhere like that. Then I looked up before race 1 in here, and I went, what is going on there? It was just bucketing.
And it didn't really stop until, I think, late in the day, probably about race 9. It was a late finish for us, but, yeah, it sort of kept going all day, and it was a credit to everyone involved. They got through the meeting, and it was a case of survival of the fittest in most of the races.
Chris, let's start with race 5, the English Nursery at Randwick. What a great story this is for the people who purchased this particular horse with Bjorn Baker within the law.
Yeah, he's a Derby horse, and he won, of course, the English race down at Flemington. So he's 2 from 2 now within the law, and he was pretty good here. The off-pace runners were suited here because the leaders did run along. Cantiamo was up there, Telling was up there. So they had their chances, and within the law sat about 3 lengths off them and was travelling all the way, travelled beautifully in the run, and then came through that gap inside the 300-metre mark and was too strong. But that was aided, of course, as I said, by a number of horses early on from the gates that wanted to go forward and either lead or settle on speed. So good effort from within the law. We'll get out over further, you would think, on that. Sequistra, I thought, was good. One of yours, Brad, on debut, sat wide, ran a nice race. Just probably knocked up a little bit late, but obviously take good advantage off that. One was in the market there as well. Gobi Desert ran nowhere, but was very wide all the way. So you can forgive that run and no cover as well. So I think within the law was good, and I think Sequistra's one to follow as well.
On to race 7, the Christmas Cup. Gee, this was a good finish, wasn't it? Tell us all about it. The win of Cadavar for Chris Waller and Kieran McAvoy. You always got the feeling that McAvoy was going to get this horse home with that battle up the straight.
Yeah, it just looked like he was going to go past the other one, Alicant.
That's why I didn't say it, mate.
You're a lot smarter than I am, mate. You're a lot smarter. Anyway, that horse was up on speed and did a good job again. That was a horse that, of course, ran second at Kembla in the race there, which Gilded Water, I think, won from the Mars stable. Very good run there, very good run here. Cadavar had the last shot, sort of tracked the speed all the way, took over into the straight. Alcalance took over into the straight, and Cadavar was the one that ran it down. But as you say, a very, very stirring sort of finish there. Both horses can be followed. Both have good records. Nick Our Spur, the horse from up this way, trained by the Gearans, ran well once again. And Sea King, well, he was a major disappointment, of course, the horse that won the Country Cup there in Victoria. It wasn't too far away in a Melbourne Cup, but he never, ever travelled in the run, did he, Sea King?
No, he sort of wanted. He'd seen an intent to get off the fence down the back, and he didn't. Yep. Never stopped going backwards thereafter. Then the Ingham again. This one purchased online just recently for Bjorn Baker Robusto, and Tim Clark found the money. Yeah, the selling party of the horse was, of course, the Inghams.
Yes.
And this horse now goes to another stable and another owner wins the Ingham, worth $2 million. So a bit of irony there. But Robusto, look, he had a lovely run. They went hard here. Look, I was super keen on Gringotts. Whether he went too hard up on speed sitting second or he needs the paddock, I don't know. I'm not jumping off him yet, but look, he was disappointing on face value. Robusto parked right behind fourth. All the others came from off speed. Stepardi, NCAP, Private Eye wasn't too far off them. The best closer in the race, but he's an impossible horse to catch, was Ozapinko. He was the one that was making ground between runners late, Marty, but do you back him next time?
Oh, I don't know. No, I'm with you a bit.
Yeah, I know. If he jumped off a plane, went to the track yesterday and watched his run and never seen him before, you'd be all over him next start. But we know his background. So maybe not, but look, all honours to Robusto and Bjorn Baker.
Well, race number 9, it looked like Perrier was home, didn't it? And Jetabeel along the inside for Tyler Schiller got the money.
Yeah, this was a good finish. They ran good time once again from the front, so the leaders hedged and Brudenell stopped. But they just went too hard, as I mentioned. But Jetabeel was back in the field and then held up. Would have probably been something beaten if not into the clear. That gap came 75 metres from the line, burst through and was able to finish better than Peril, as you say, had the race shot to pieces. He looked absolute winner at the 150 right to about the 50-metre mark and even probably inside of that mark as well. Good run. Exceladus, it was a bit of an eye-catcher here too. Weaved home well. Does run a race fresh most of the time. Second up record is not so good, but we'll be appreciating getting out over further during the campaign. So keep an eye on Exceladus going forward.
Yeah, I thought Eagles Nest was enormous too, electing not to lead and, just kept coming, which was a really good effort for the all-up place punters like me. Now to Eagle Farm, where we're turning into a heavy 10, race 4, Find Your Own. Got the job done here. King Kello, he's riding well up there.
He certainly is riding well up here. And look, Find Your Own had some really strong form lines going into the race. We hadn't seen the horse for almost a couple of months, but to the front there, and Kello just sat there and gave the horse an urge late and was able to hold off the closers. So, look, Bohemian Lab was a good run. I think I've mentioned this everywhere, but look, his last 2 runs before going for a break, he should have won. He won a trial leading up to this. He's been scratched and accepted for many times in the last 2 weeks. He finally ran yesterday, but he just gave away too much start. He was finding the line very strongly, Bohemian Lab. He's definitely one for the Black Book. Solitaire, I thought, had every possible chance, ran third. Maybe not as much suited or well suited on the heavy ground. There's probably a win somewhere for Solitaire, but on face value, had her chance yesterday.
On to race 6, the Gold Edition plate taken out by Super Ally. Good to see Rex Lip train this winner. Yeah. And Angela Jones, she's just a star, isn't she?
She absolutely is a star, Marty. Every time you look up, she's riding a winner, and she rarely rides a bad race. Rarely does. I mean, she's going to get more and more opportunities, even in the state, I would hope, further down the track. This was a double, first of a double, feature race double for Rex Lip. Angela Jones had another day out, as you mentioned. Good win. Look, the top 4 all ran well here. When you ask me for horses to follow from this meeting, I'm going to say not a lot. It's more of a survival of the fittest and horses that we need to forgive rather than follow. But these top 4, Super Alloy, Hella Fast, I'm Zach and She Ours, there was only 1.8 lengths between the 4 of them. They all ran well. Super Alloy was just a little bit too strong for them late, which doesn't surprise me because I always thought he was better suited over further, and that would have felt like a lot further than 1,200 yesterday. So stick with all of them. Certainly She Ours ran well again, and I think she'll win one shortly.
Yeah, race 7 was the Grand Prix, and Bo Dazzler found the line. A punter gave him something to chase.
Yeah, he's pretty honest, a punter. He got out with a big lead, and he still looked like a big chance 200 metres from the line. But Bo Dazzler, a horse that I was a big rat for, but gee, he's gone off the boil. He really went off the boil. He couldn't seem to run a half-decent race. But last start, he looked as though he might be on the way back, and Maddie Sears did say that, and she actually said, I'm going to set him for the Grand Prix, and I think he'll run really well. But do you think I listened? Of course not. So he was too strong late. He loves Eagle Farm, and he's back to his very best now, Bo Dazzler. So well done to all there. Sun Workshipper was good again. Ran a really good race 2 weeks ago, making a lot of ground, and then up to 1,800 metres, backed that up with another good run. A punter, as you mentioned, Brad, was good, but she's been up for a long time now. Moonsweeper didn't get through it. Blue Pinot was probably too far back as well, so forgive those two.
How about the Lockney, taken out by, as you said, Rexy Sofrado, winning this for Boris Thornton?
Well, he settled back in the field, but gee, he was always travelling, and when Boris brought him to the outside at the top of the straight, it was pretty obvious he was going to round them up. Prince of Boom, as I thought, got a pretty soft time of it in front and gave a good kick, so there's probably a win coming up for him somewhere, but he does love the wet ground, so that would have helped him. The others, Midnight in Tokyo, well, I've jumped off her. She was a shocker. She was heavily backed yesterday and she didn't do anything. And, of course, we lost her bounding before the race due to late scratching. So, Sofrado, he'll get better as he gets over further.
Skipped over one, race number 2, taken by the win there of Queen Air. She's a horse who traditionally doesn't really like it that wet. Rounded them up, and I know Golan, since he's got hold of this horse, has got a very big opinion of her. Heading to a race called the Shootout in a fortnight, and that gets her, if she was to win, that would get her into a Magic Millions exemption race. So he's got a plan for this mare.
As he does with pretty much every horse he's got, Tony Golan, that's for sure. But yeah, you're right, Marty. This mare came to Tony Golan. She'd had 7 starts on wet ground, and she hadn't placed at any of them. And then he produces her first up at Doomben on a heavy 10 a couple of weeks ago, and she ran a really good third. So my way of thinking was he's turned her around up here, or she's really enjoying the different environment, and she handles a heavy 10 with absolute ease yesterday, coming from the back of the field and weaving her way through for Ange Jones. So, yep, you can't always trust those heavy and wet track stats. He's certainly turned her around, and I would keep on following her, as you will be. Has got a third and an Oaks to a name, and then completely lost all form previously. Now Golan's got hold of her and just turned her around. So one to follow, I think.
Horses to follow, Chris. Definitely. And anything for the sunny coast today? And is it going to be the sunny coast? No, it's a heavy 10. I think we've got 2 or 3. We've got the first race has got 3 runners, and we've got 2 other races with 4 runners. So it'll be a fun day. I'll get the trifecta in. I'll get the trifecta in one race and the course fill in another. Well, I would hope so. All right, horses to follow. Just a couple from the earlier races at Randwick yesterday. You'll know this one, Brad High Blue Sea from race 1. Yes. And yes, Emma Dalla, both out of the first, ran well. Caribbean King and Sutton Valor out of the second. I mentioned Sequista and Excelidus later in the day. And we'll follow Bohemian Loud out of the Eagle Farm meeting, but as I said, it's more of a case of forgiving those ones that didn't run. Well, today, Sunny Coast, race 2, number 9, Jonty Aljo, 2, number 9. It was 2-9. Race 6, number 6, and race 6, number 6, She Makes Me Nervous. Now, both ran at a recent Gold Coast meeting on a wet track, and they both ran well, and they are both decent odds, so just something small each way. Okay, now the favourite in race 6, Royal Chick, I heard Annabelle Neesham on another radio station on Friday say that this was her best of the weekend anywhere, but that would have been before the rain. So I was going to say, did she factor in a heavy 10? Yeah, not sure about that, but she's left the horse in, so she must think it's going to handle it. Yeah. Bailey Wheeler rides 3:20. We might take a Quinella with 6 and 11 there in race 6. That sounds like a plan. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. It'll be. Look, if we do get more rain, it's just going to be an absolute bog. So hopefully that's not the case. All right. Hopefully we get some play in the Gabba test. That'd be nice as well. Oh, that should be okay. No, that should be fine. Okay. All right, Chris. Always good to chat. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Leave him there. Coming up next is race.
On the Aftermath, you are listening to Marty Young and Brad Hardie on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Yes, and Racetrack Ralphy from racetrackralphy.com joins us. A very good morning.
Good morning, boys. Just before we get to the heath, just want to pass on my best to the Western Empire connections because, of course, another wide barrier, bad that cost a good horse a race.
Yeah, exactly. All it did was get about $7 to its fans. Wow, and Billy Egan as well.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, why do we hear it every time there's a barrier draw?
But particularly the way the track was playing, Ralphie, it was funny sitting back home, just digressing, but watching it on 7+, and I've got to give Scotty Embry a good push out here because he just summed it up. We've just got to get it into that 3 wide line cover flowing, and it'd be very hard to beat. You're getting $7. Start of the week it was $3.50.
It's extraordinary, and God bless it.
Yes.
all good.
Good morning, Ralphie. Are you suing the Herald Sun this morning for superimposing your head on Christian Petrarca's body?
I've yet to open it up, but if that's the case, yes, I will. I'm not happy with him up front. That's just wrong. Yeah, he's taped it off, Christian. If he could just get to work over the summer, we could barrack for him next year. But at this stage, got to have concerns about whether he's dedicated enough.
I'd gather we haven't seen it over here, but there's a semi-nude shot of him there showing off the rig. Is there, Brad?
Yeah. Well, he's got the six-pack, and Ralphie and I have got the cart.
well, Brad, as someone who famously took his jumper off, how many times would you have taken your jumper off with that?
Yeah, exactly. Every week. So, Mick, have a look at this.
I was once described, Ralphie, as a bread van in a sports car race, but that's okay. That's okay.
Magnificent.
Tell us about the Heath.
Look, I've got to say, I think it plays well. Unfortunately, and just this glut of racing that we have, and, let's not forget, it used to be 7 races midweek and 8 on a Saturday, and now there's, 100 races midweek and 10 on a Saturday. So it's obviously going to impact the standard of runners. So we obviously had a lot of benchmark racing yesterday, which made it a bit of a raffle situation and tempers confidence. But I'm going to say it's playing pretty well. I think you want to just peel slightly off the fence with full momentum, as per usual. The bloke who's the most fastidious in his preparation, or is as fastidious as anyone, Craig Williams, nails it and rides 4. But I couldn't say there's any knock about the track whatsoever. Only the standard horse was pretty basic.
Yeah, no, terrific. Race 1 kicked off, and Graham Begg, terrific trainer, and the market pretty much got this one right.
As they usually do with this stable, Brad. Yes, absolutely. And this horse finished with the best last 200 of the day at Geelong, second best last 400 off a slow tempo. So we just wanted to see what it could do off a fast tempo. They rolled along here. The time compared very well with later in the day the open horse. So I think this is a horse that's actually going places, Silicap, and this bloke's a very, very good trainer. I'm sure he'll find more races for it.
Second event, it was Andrew Bobbin. Jayla Kennedy, isn't she in some touch as well, with Thayless leading all the way?
Yeah, 100%. You got my notes there in front of me. I mean, this was just a ride 101, jumped beautifully and kept the lead from Rivkin. And from that position, it was always going to take a power of beating because Rivkin's a pretty fast horse and the others just couldn't catch it. Basic benchmark race, but the best ride won. I would say, actually, just quickly, Georgie Get Mad, 1400 next start.
Yeah, there was a little bit there for him. Race 3, terrific, very competitive finish. Finished in the stewards' room. Yeah,
it did. He kept the race, Craig, and what an irony that he lost his voice.
Yeah.
Still didn't stop him.
No, he found it.
Exactly. Look, pretty basic race again. I think Indian Jewel's ready for 2000. She was in the wrong spot early, midfield back the fence, but I've worked out, when watching the replays, I worked out why Frosty ended up there, but I think she just needs 2000 and trying to make significant ground hard against the fence. I think that's that one little quirk you don't want to be doing at that track.
Sassy Boom and Miss Tarzi fought out race number 4.
Yeah, well, sometimes the market just gets sick of forgiving a horse for legitimate excuses, and Sassy Boom had that, but terrific front-running ride. Jet Stanley just racked them up. Pretty slow time, so a little dash home. Miss Tarzy's the one to follow out of this for sure. She's better further. Her first up run was good, better again from a box seat position, and I think she's going to be winning races over the summer in sort of the benchmark sort of 2000 range.
Race 5 was the qualifier for the Magic Millions, and Invincible Woman announced herself as a huge chance come January.
Yeah, and the market support came for her again as a way of making quid of avoiding stakes races in slow 2-year-old races, because third week in a row the horse that had, in quotation marks, stakes form has got rolled, and this time was Bakash. But she trialled really sharply, raced accordingly, dominated. Time not overly sharp, but, obviously they're 2-year-olds and they're improving as they go, and I think she's going to give them a shout up at the Gold Coast.
Okay, one for the ladies there. Lizzie Jels leading the ownership. Race number 6, 4-year-old, 3-year-old classic. It was Yes Lulu for Ma and Bates.
From the back.
Yeah, so about 6 lengths slower than the last race, and this was tempo related. So you've got to say, yes, Lulu being able to really launch from midfield, I think it's on the rise, and we often see this with Kieran Maher horses. Sometimes they keep improving through racing, and this is one horse who's done that. So she was very good. Every possible chance for Miss Altair in front, from Craig stacking him up in front. Miss Miraval Rose seemed to sort of lose its action before the turn. I won't mention the jockey here because I'll mention the jockey in 2 races' time.
Got it. Race 7, again, Craig Williams at his best on Bond Mistress. She pretty much controlled the race up on speed.
Yeah, just sort of stalked Thorin, who's out of form, and Thorin was able to hang on, so it sort of shows you what type of tempo it went. I was looking at this 17 times and couldn't work out what Easy Done was favourite race morning, and it ran accordingly, but benchmark 70 races. So Bond Mistress, it's won 200,000, winning 3 of its last 4, and not yet to do much on the clock, but doesn't have to at this time of year, of course.
How about race number 8 over that 1,000 metres? The Hawks team and Craig Williams again combined with Grand Larceny.
Yeah, beautiful box seat run behind Philosopher and Midnight Charm, and from there that position running was always going to be hard to beat. And again, this sort of tells you what to do in this track, because just watch what the best jockeys do, and Craig was third defence, but he was keen to peel out sort of that 4-5 lanes off, and that's clearly the A1 slot. So it won well. Boston Roxer for short sort of, I think it was 85 days spell. It's run well. The 2 Hayes horses, I think, have run terrific, even though they were well beaten, because I don't think they were really screwed down. Luna Cat and Wolflands, I reckon, will win a race at a price. Only second prep with Team Hayes. Nice little jump out. No money for it, yes, so I think Wolflands is one we can follow.
Race 9, and this was I think you might have been on this one, Ralphy. Marble Arch got over the top of Warning.
I wish. No, it was a Warning. Look.
Me too.
These FIFO jockeys, honestly, I'm never personal, but this is just not knowing the local form, because Buffalo River's a fast horse.
Chasing.
Slightly slowly away. So instead, every other jockey here who knows the form would take their medicine, would be 3 out, and I've had a good look. There was a slot there. You'd be 3 pairs back, and you're 1 off, and you're close enough. And knowing that Buffalo River's going to take off. So instead, really forced him forward, then wanted to race Buffalo River, and then chased him on the turn when he was always going to compound. So it just left him an absolute sitting duck. So he's the horse to follow from the meeting, Warnie. Marble Arch, nice, honest, fit horse. And again, as you said, Marty Jayla Kennedy just keeps nailing the brief, and did so again with Marble Arch.
In the lucky, it was Williams again. Comes with inhibitions. Geez, they truckload of this, didn't they, to beat Zoo Sensation?
I was about to say they stopped betting with the barriers open. I think it was $5 race morning. I'm sure it was. And then they've crossed the line, and I looked at the total and, oh, my goodness gracious. So they absolutely smashed this. So and there was a case for it, no doubt. But again, Craig in the best spot. Two Sensations run well. I think it's a pretty strong form race. Helix has got the blinkers on. And why worry? I want to see it around the back around the bend of the valley. And Umgala, little sort of glimpse there. But horses to follow from the meeting on sort of a tough benchmark sort of day. Definitely Warnie with a jockey change. And in the first race, the winner there, Celia Ladd.
Okay, beautifully done.
Ralphie.
All the best, Ralphie.
Get on to your lawyer.
Boys. Will do.
Racetrack Ralphie from racetrackralphie.com.au. He is a star.
You're listening to the Sunday Aftermath on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Text line, we've got plenty to get through. Let's launch. First off, for Rusty Gates. Hi, boys. Yesterday, when I tuned into the start of the Test match in Brisbane after seeing India win the toss, I was surprised that they chose to field. To me, my immediate thought was that the Indian batsmen were so devoid of confidence that they didn't want to face the Australian attack on the first day. Also, rumour has it, the Queensland Tourism Minister has been approached to change the saying, Queensland beautiful one day, perfect the next, to Queensland beautiful one day, raining the next. That is from Rusty Gates. Were you surprised that they elected the field?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The great Ian Chappell once said, 9 times out of 10 you win the toss, you bat, and the 10th time you think about bowling and you bat. And, they got seduced by the greenness on the pitch, and they just didn't quite get it right. And we weren't to know the rain was going to roll in like that, but they were hoping to get a wicket early. It didn't happen. Now we're sort of on the back foot a little bit here for the Indians. They've got a lot of work to do.
And also, I just thought the bowling again, they were too short like they were in Adelaide. Brett, you've played a lot more cricket than I was useless at the game, all right? But I've watched a lot of it. How can you be so good at Perth with your line and length, and then it leaves you so quickly for Adelaide when you just want to bang it in short too much? And same thing's happening up in Brisbane yesterday.
Again, they got seduced by thought, well, we're going to get some bounce here. I'm going to pitch it a bit shorter, and it's going to whistle through. Well, in Perth, what they did get right were the Australians were looking for the nicks, and they did that. They caught all of the Indian batsmen out in the first innings, remember? But Bumrah and co were, if they weren't getting them out, they were getting them out LBW or bowled. Remember, even Head got bowled in Perth, so they were really targeting the stumps, and they've just gone away from that. You're right, Marty. I think some of the times these fast bowlers get seduced by a juicy pitch, and they think, I'm going to whistle one through past their ears, so to speak. Well, no, just concentrate on off stump and full, because that's where the Australians at their most comfortable when you want to bowl short. They tend to be able to find a way to score.
Big Snoz has weighed in on the GOAT, Bryce Cotton. He said he can have the word GOAT added to his name and be very proud of it. The GOAT word has been used loosely in other sports, but this guy is a true recipient.
Oh, look, we're overrun by goats. They're everywhere. It doesn't matter what sport you're in. I mean, some genuinely deserve it, and some are goats. But I hear what he says. I mean, look, I think the argument he's talking about now is he the GOAT of the Perth Wildcats? And imports in particular. We've had some beauties. Ricky Grace, you can go back. All of a sudden you'll start a pub test fight. Trying to work out
James
who the best import is for the and the Alabama Slammer.
That's it.
Easy for me to say. Yeah, so, as I say, that's where I think he's talking about.
Okay, Lisa of Allenbrook, a very good morning. She even says hello to Sophie. She's so polite, Lisa. Well done. Guys, no one is irreplaceable. And Billy Egan showed that yesterday when he rode Western Empire, winning the Gold Rush, great win. Bryce Cotton does it again. Another 44 points performance. First player in 33 years to get 40-plus points in 4 consecutive games. He's playing like a man possessed. He's a superstar, the best. Taipan's coach says Bryce doesn't belong in the league. We'll be saying that if Cotton was in the team. I think not. Boys, a costly Gabba washout could cost Australian cricket $1 million. 13.2 overs were bowled for the day, and I think a minimum of 15 overs required to prevent fans being eligible for a full refund. Yep. You mentioned that.
10 balls.
Warner still continues to criticise former teammates. Latest being Labuschagne. He's told Marnus to ignore the noise in the media despite him being the main creator of it. When are we going to see the back of this grub? Wow. Looking forward to the big bash tonight. How do you see Perth Scorchers go up against the Stars? Take care, enjoy the week. And she also loves listening to Tash Faithfull as well. So she's gone double. I said how polite Lisa is, and she's come double-barrelling for David Warner. Bang.
She's an oracle. Don't worry about that. Look, I think just with the Scorchers tonight, the BBL kicks off with the Over Your Ways, Marty, as the opening game, which is great. And look, and I'll say, as I said it yesterday, I'm frightened to say it again today, but the most overrated team or outfit in Australian sport in recent times has been the Melbourne Stars. And they're led by one of our own, Marcus Stoinis, leading them tonight. So an ex-West Aussie, leading him and Maxwell. So hopefully, as we heard in the news, Aaron Hardie's still out injured. English they didn't release. So, but hopefully Vogie and the boys can get it done tonight. Go the Scorchers. That's what I say.
Yes, that is for sure. Chris Pike will come up too in the second half hour of this hour, and we'll be talking about 2 Sunday games. The Phoenix are playing Melbourne United. So got a little Melbourne derby on there, and then the Sydney Kings are playing the Brisbane Bullets. Bullets have been in some terrific form late as well, but the Kings expected to get that one done. Time to talk cricket now. Courtney Walsh joins us. A very good morning.
Yeah, good morning, gents. I think we'll see some cricket at least this morning.
Okay, what's the feel? Yeah.
Look, it's sunnier in Brisbane today, but if you have a look at that forecast, it's it'll be interesting to see whether we actually get through a test, which has some ramifications elsewhere in terms of World Test Championships, etc. if they don't finish. But, I think we'll get some play, certainly for a few hours, but Queensland weather at this time of the year, it's unpredictable.
Yeah. Courtney, they're going to start an hour earlier today, I believe. Oh, that should be, only a few minutes away?
They're starting at, just trying to think, Perth time, they're starting at 8:50 a.m, and it'll be 98 overs at a minimum. So expect a long, long day, particularly given the rate with which, they're getting through overs at the moment. Struggle to get to 80 overs a day, at best. So, that adds another at least hour on to the sort of play. So you think that it'll be, an 8:50 all the way through to, almost after about 5 o'clock, basically, Perth time. So
Courtney, I think it's 7:50, mate, over here. 7:50.
7:50, sorry, 7:50.
Maths was always your strong point, wasn't it, at school? You were very good at it, they tell me.
This is why I'm writing.
Words, not numbers.
It's such a confusing thing where you're going, hang on, 2 hours, 3 hours.
Well,
no daylight savings in Queensland. Daylight savings elsewhere.
I can understand your confusion.
Don't worry, Courtney.
I can't tell you what time that time it'll be.
Don't feel bad, Courtney. Marty and I went to school to eat our lunch as well. So
yeah, and plasticine.
That's okay. Yeah. Now, two quick things. There was a discussion. Michael Vaughan raised it again. He got a lot of support. 4-day test matches. This is exactly why we need 5, just in case.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see why you wouldn't have the reserve day. It doesn't, not a reserve day, but just keep it at 5. Because if you do get a decent washout, well, then why wouldn't you have the additional day's test? It doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, having had the good fortune of dealing with Michael quite a bit through my role with Fox Sports, what I love about him is he brings a lot of opinions to the table, and he's not afraid to voice them, and I think a lot of them are spot on. This one, maybe not. Particularly when you've got the big series like Australia or England, Australia or India, you want to have the best option to see as much cricket as possible. Now, whether they actually last 5 days of full cricket, I'm not so sure we'll see that anymore the way we're playing, although a couple of those Ashes tests did extend the distance, last year in the UK. So I wouldn't want to shortchange fans of cricket too much. The other proposal floating around, the 80 overs a day, well, again, doesn't that shortchange a fan who's paid good money? Surely we have to find another option for bowlers to get quicker, or for reviews to be a bit quicker. Like, it does seem like we're losing a lot of cricket. It's a tenth of a day's play, or more than a tenth of a day's play, that seems to have disappeared. For no good reason that I can understand. I mean, bowlers' run-ups were always very long. You had the West Indies coming in from the fence a couple of times, so I don't know why we're so long at the moment.
Okay, so back to this match, and I asked Brad earlier on the program, were you surprised that India India decided to field?
Yes and no. We know that the dynamics of the Gabba have changed a little bit in recent years, primarily not being the first test of the summer. The pitch is not as lively, but it was, not surprisingly for Brisbane, exceptionally humid yesterday and overcast. It just didn't do as much off the pitch from what we could see. The flip side is, if Bumrah beat the Egypt of Khawaja particularly quite a few times, so it might have been he was almost too good. Australia could have easily been again 2 to 3 down, and the conversation changes. We are only number 28. I'm not getting ahead of ourselves thinking that just because we've survived one spell of Bumrah, we're necessarily ahead of the game here. The challenge will be, does the pitch hold together over the 5 days? Well, I think with the weather around, it's probably more likely to, be pretty decent pitch on day 5. And the other factor of play is, will we get enough cricket to sort of get a result? I'm not convinced we will. The forecast doesn't look great for the next 3 days. So, how much we actually get through, unless there's a massive collapse, I think, from either side, we may not get a result in this one.
Courtney, I was at pains trying to explain to Marty, not that I'm a Weather Bureau man, but obviously that weather comes off from Toowoomba, and it rolls in, and then it sort of goes past, it goes out to sea, and then it does a U-turn and comes back. That's what it really sets in.
Well, the locals sort of tell me that if it's from the west, and it's west, you'll get a massive burst, but then it sort of clears out. But if it does come back in from the coast, it tends to sit and tends to sort of stick around for quite a few days. And I don't know if you've had any chance to have a holiday along the coast, either the coast, Marty, but when you're up there and you see the clouds when you arrive, it can be really disappointing. You know you're in for a few days of really, really crap sort of tide. Like the oceans are quite often, the beaches quite often get shut down on the Gold Coast if the weather's coming in from the wrong way, and it sticks around.
Well, just looking at the radar now, there is a massive rain band. It's going from Bundaberg all the way down to Southport, but it's out to sea, as you said, Brad, but it could easily come back into land, and if that hits, then there'll be more rain.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Doesn't augur well.
Okay, so and one thing I did hear listening to ABC commentary on the radio yesterday was they were talking about the pitch, how it can look green on day one, but they seem to think historically the Gabba pitch on day two can do a little bit more. The ball can do a bit more off the pitch on the second day.
Yeah, and I guess whether we see that because of the dynamics yesterday, where it was only basically exposed for 13 overs, not much more than an hour yesterday. Whether we see that on the second day because of that dynamic, it'll be really interesting to see. Yeah, the grass. They were saying yesterday, just listening to the pre match conversations out on the wicket, and they were saying it seemed like it had a little less grass than usual on the pitch. So that in itself probably suggests that it may not be as lively today as what it usually is. So I'm not so sure this is the type of as regular a Gabba pitch as what we've probably seen in the past, where it does start to crack a bit day 4, day 5, where it becomes quite tricky to bat on it. I think this one will probably hold together a little bit more.
Courtney, I know we're pontificating in this case because the play hasn't started yet, but obviously enormous task for Steve Smith in this particular batting first innings, and the bowlers. It doesn't look good for Boland at the MCG. We thought he might have got a run, but with this rain and that, it preserves our fast bowlers, doesn't it? So Stark, Cummins and Hazelwood to this point aren't going to be overworked.
No, and having only bowled, obviously Hazelwood didn't bowl in Adelaide, although having had the chance on the Monday to see him go, and he was pretty confident that he'd be fine. And having that session in Brisbane, Ellen Border Field on Thursday, they only bowled 80 overs in Adelaide all up. They bowled 130 in Perth in that second innings, but then have 10 days break, 80 overs in Adelaide over 2 innings, and Hazelwood doesn't bowl, and Mishmarsh only bowls 4 overs, and Nathan Lyon bowls 1. I think they'll be pretty much fresh and firing and ready to go, barring anything untoward in this one. So, Boland, who knocked over Shubman Gill, Yashavi Joswell, Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma in Adelaide. Fairly handy scalps to have in your resume. And you're out the next game. It's tough life as the fourth quick bowler in this lineup, particularly when you consider his record at the MCG, which is outstanding. It's it really is in short McGill type territory, but McGill at least was able to get 200 wickets. Boland will probably, with an unbelievable average, finish around 50 test wickets or so.
But he seems to accept that role, doesn't he? And I mean, what can you do? You can't go away and sulk. So he accepts it. When he gets his chance, he plays well. So let's look at today's play. If we get a decent amount of play in, what are you expecting to see?
Look, I'd love to see the two openers, carry on. I thought Sweeney looked pretty decent in Adelaide. After we chatted last week, I thought he was quite. It was only a short little stint, but I thought I liked the way he sort of was able to get through that. He batted conservatively yesterday with Kawaja sort of making the play. I think if we make 300 at the moment is a really competitive score, exceptionally competitive score in any innings, given how quickly sort of wickets are tumbling. So if they can get to 300 or so, as they get those 300 today, then we're a chance of a result. It's just whether we get enough cricket in sort of later in the afternoon to sort of get through a decent portion of the day. So you'd love to think Australia can bat most of today.
Just before we let you go, Courtney, the BBL starts today with Marty over in the West. I mean, how significant is it for cricket to have this going on over the next couple of months?
Well, it's interesting. I noticed the Sunday Times today has the Scorchers have become an old England. Which is interesting. I thought that was an interesting sort of headline. No, it's a really significant time. We know that it hasn't quite got the star power as what it used to have in terms of drawing big names. I think Warner back playing a full season, that's important. There was a function in Brisbane on Friday night, more a cocktail function. How it actually pans out, well, the WA team has been so strong over so many years. Would you have them as favourite, Marty? I'd love to know the local view there as to whether they're again the team to beat. We know that it'll sell out, obviously, in Perth, in Adelaide. They'll have really strong crowds. In Brisbane, they'll have strong crowds. The challenge will again be what happens in Melbourne. Do they actually draw a decent crowd in Melbourne, given the two franchises? Once drew a record crowd and now struggle to get 15 to 20,000 to a match.
Yeah, I think the comp had been in that. It's in that little transitional phase now, isn't it? It's very important they get it right because any further drop in crowd attendances is really going to set some alarm bells ringing. Just on to win at Scorchers. To win the whole BBL are favourites at 450, Sydney Sixers 550, Brisbane Heat 6, Hobart 750 and Sydney Thunder 850. Gee, they're nearly... Like Melbourne Stars are outsiders and they're $10, so it gives you an idea that the bookies really don't know what's going to happen here. The man who does know is David Short. He has put out his BBL preview, so make sure you get hold of that. Some good reading in that and some good value as well. Just another test series that I've been watching very closely is New Zealand and England, and the Kiwis did really well to get out of a predicament. They looked like they wouldn't even make 300, didn't they? They got to 347, and at the moment, after 2 overs, England are none for 23 chasing.
It'd be fair to say that they're not going about that conservatively. Mitchell Santner, who hit so well in in India when New Zealand whitewashes India in October, and Santner played a couple of pivotal roles. He only comes into the team for this test when a dead rubber, effectively, after England won the first two.
Yep.
But to carry the bat like he did late yesterday to make the half century and sort of guide them to a decent tally, you think, it's a good performance. Good to see Tim Southey at the end, who's been an outstanding player. And I think he's got the record for the most sixes of current players. Come in and spank a couple over the fence as a tail ender. Certainly the game's changed a little bit. I was thinking about that record in terms of Steve Smith's on the cusp of overtaking Ricky Ponting in terms of slips catches or catches taken in the field for Australia. He's 188 and Ponting's 196. But the one with the sixes, given the grounds are now all roped, it's not like you're putting them over the fence. I reckon that some of the figures are slightly obscured. So Southey, as good as he is, I think you have to put an asterisk against records associated with sixes these days, given the changing nature of that. But, he's been an outstanding player at 36. It's fascinating that New Zealand performed so well against India.
India, yeah, it is.
And then are going to get spanked at home. If England off to a flyer again, well, none for 23. If they manage to bat like the way they're doing, they'll have that by 50 overs.
They're none for 25 off 2.3.
Yeah, it's astonishing sort of cricket. It'll be interesting to see how that translates next summer. Again, talking to Michael Vaughan and a couple of others, and they are very much talking up the England attack and the amount of options they've got and the sheer pace they're going to bring to Australia. And
Matthew Potts.
They like the fact that they've sort of rolled through about 6 or 7 different sort of bowlers. So, I don't know. I'd love to see them come and get beaten 5-love, but I guess we'll see what happens 12 months away. Let's get through India first.
Just one more on this series now, Australian-India. And I'm not sure if it's going to be this series, and maybe it's the next Ashes series. But you know what I yearn for, Brad and Courtney, is those really hard-fought test series that'll be 1-1, the third a draw, 2-1, or along that, or you get to that final test series, it might be 1-1 with a decider to come. Like you used to get in the 70s and sort of 80s and that. You don't get them as much anymore, Courtney?
Well, we've just been doing a series with, with Fox Sports where I had a chance to sort of talk to our experts, and probably the most recent India tour where it was only a four test series, but Australia rolls them to 36 in Adelaide, gets to the MCG. Rahane, who's back in form in India, I noticed, played that superb innings as standing captain after Kohli went home. Guides India to that win. They have that really hard-fought test in Sydney, the SCG, where Tim Payne's sort of chirping away at Ashwin behind the stumps. But India bat all day to save the test. And then they come out in Brisbane and end that 32-year unbeaten drought. Day 5, Shubman Gill, Rishabh Pant make a lot of runs. They chase down 327 with about 13 or so balls to go or a couple of overs to go. That was a proper series.
Yes.
We're 1-1 here. If it, depending on what happens, if it's a draw here because of the rain, you get to Boxing Day with a lot riding on it, and
Correct.
Australia need to win the series. Need to be ahead to actually reclaim that. So I'm not ruling this one out. As one-sided as both tests were so far, it is 1-1. It could yet be the series that, come the SCG, a hell of a lot riding on it than day 4 or day 5. Of course, it'll be rain, but it'll be interesting to see.
I'm not sure where you apportion the blame. Be careful what you wish for. And I understand there has been a directive from, Cricket Australia and others to make sure we've got green top, spicy pitches. We don't mind if it's only a 2.5-day test because it's exciting and the people are watching and the people are coming. Record attendances at Perth and Adelaide, etc. But I'm with you, Courtney and Marty. I'm just not sure because even the final of the Test Match Championship last year, it was gripping. It was gripping stuff. That's exactly what we want. Yeah,
and I want to see day 4 or day 5. You want matches to be going to at least the second session on the Friday on the final day, don't you? Where you don't really know. Someone pulls out a great innings at number 8. That can change the way the test goes. So, and I also love that grit that to bat all day, to survive. There is great tension associated with having 6 or 7 around the bat in catching positions late in the match, trying to secure the 8th wicket, the 9th wicket, the 10th wicket. So, it doesn't all have to be lots of wickets following flashy shots. There's gripping cricket when there's a lot of defence on the line as well.
Courtney, we've got to get moving. Love the chat. We'll listen in during the week too on the Sports Daily. Thanks for that.
Have a great day, gents.
Every Sunday morning, like a lullaby to a baby's ear, Marty Young and Brad Hardie entertaining you on the Aftermath on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Hey, Bradley, we're not too far away from talking to Paul Stuart, chasing back at Cannington last night. What a night it would have been to be at Cannington. Had the Greys back chasing there after a sojourn, and Paul Stuart was the man to the 4, training a 4-timer, and he joins us right now. G'day, Paul.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Not as good as you. That was a nice way to get back to Cannington and find a bit of form.
It was, yeah. We've been hanging out for it for a while. It was a good change of scenery to get back there last night.
Did you plan it that way, Paul? Did you say, right, I'm going to have a good team in, or did it just work out that way?
No, it's sort of just how it works out. They've sort of been racing at Northern and Mandurah, all the ones that in from last night. And, Bezecchi was first up last night, but we were waiting for Cannington for him. But, the other ones were just sort of running around. And, they just been waiting for Cannington just as much as we have been. So, it's good to see him turn up.
Morning, Paul. Congratulations. Your cracking effort to create your own quaddie. You kicked it off in race 1 with Rapido Rhapsody. Never in doubt.
No, he was good. He was well drawn, and he came out nicely. And once he sort of done that, he's a pretty quick dog on his day, and he put him away pretty early. So that was good to see.
What about in race number 4? You went the Quinella, but it was the wrong way around for the punters. Starlight Panama at $15 upsets Bezecchi.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. She's very fast. She just has funny tendencies. Sometimes she turns up, sometimes she doesn't. But she got the better of him. She had a vacant draw inside of her last night, and she just jumped out and kept going. But whereas Bezecchi done the opposite, he missed the kick and was last at one stage and then just zoomed around him and rattled home into second. So it was good to see him perform. His last start in Melbourne was pretty poor. So I was happy just to see him return to his old ways like he used to race. And, it was good for him to run the Quinella. But, it was funny with Panama. She was $17, but when I trialled them all there on Tuesday night, I took 7 up there and she was the quickest of a lot of them. So, if you sort of knew that, you might have had $1 on, but even then she's hard to catch.
Race to race double into race 5 Agnaia. It wasn't all champagne and roses. I thought jumped beautifully, but certainly challenged by Sunset Mirage in the run.
Yeah, he came out really good, and I thought, once he leads, he's a pretty hard dog to run. He's run some quick times at the Old Cainton before it shut down, and he had the perfect draw in one, and I thought, once he led, it'd be pretty hard to beat. And then, they whipped around him, and I thought, this is his chance to give up if he wanted to, but he actually dug really deep and come back and railed through on the line and got the job done. So it was a pleasing result for him.
And you wrapped it up in race number 8 with Rapido Jedi winning as an odds-on favourite.
Yeah, he done what he was supposed to do. According to the punters, he was, awkwardly drawn, but he's got the ability, and he came out clean last night and nearly found the front straight away, but he worked around him, and he's super strong. And once he got clear down the back, he sort of put a bit of a gap on him. So it was a good confidence for him getting back to Cainton. So hopefully he can continue that form on.
To win 4 races on any car, doesn't matter what sort of code it is a pretty darn good performance. Is that somewhere near your best that you've had, Paul, or have you done better?
No, I think that's about it. Yeah, I think I've maybe had 4 once before at the old Caddington.
Mm-hmm.
To get 4 in last night was pretty good. We took 5 dogs to the track, and to get 4 winners in the second
and
the
a Quinella.
You couldn't do much better than that. So we're pretty happy.
Hey, Paul, I know it's an easy one to say when you've trained 4 winners, but how did the track play?
I thought it was pretty good. For a track that's brand new, it raced pretty good. Obviously, it's going to get a little bit better in time, but you couldn't fault the preparation of the track. It was nice and firm. The times were very good, considering, we've only been down for 2 weeks. So, it was good. It's going to be a bit of a leader's bias track, I'd say. It's got quite a big camber on the corners, and it sort of pushes everyone down to the rail. So you want to be in front or on the rail somewhere to be winning, I'd say. But the track played fair, and all the racing seemed very clean, which was the main part.
That's where I was getting to. The next one is a lot of the changes to the track were about animal welfare and looking after the greys. And from that perspective, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because the very first race, you could see all the dogs. Afterwards, we were walking back onto back to the kennels. All the dogs seem to they get to that first corner and they all just sort of funnel down onto the fence, and it was almost as if they just get into line. And even during the night, I noticed a lot of dogs didn't sort of crash left or right. They were holding their lines, and everyone got pretty clean runs, to be fair. So it was good. I think probably the way the boxes are set up, it's going to be an advantage to the inside draws, but it seems to have made it a little bit cleaner. So I can't fault what they've done with it so far.
The kennel's on fire. The dogs are barking in the background. We love that. Our listeners love a coming winner. Paul, have you got one?
Oh, I've got nothing due till next week, but
we're patient.
Probably have to. Yeah, I know.
No, we're not.
The one from last night. You probably have to follow. I thought Bezecchi was really good last night. He missed the kick. Obviously, he's going to be pretty short when he starts next, but. Probably him and probably Rapido Rhapsody. He'd be the one to follow. I think he's going to turn into a pretty nice dog in time.
Beautifully done, Paul. Thanks for your time this morning. All the best.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Paul Stuart there. What a night it was for him at Cannington last night. What about this final of the Inter-Dominion last night?
Go to war up top. They come to the quarter pole. 400 metres left to go. 26 won the split. It's Don Hugo and Minstrel. Terry's running a mighty race behind them then. Looking for an out as Max Delight. Don Hugo gets about a neck in front. On the outside, Minstrel's trying to wear it down. Max Delight, and further out is Terry. It's Don Hugo, the leader. Minstrel is trying its heart out with 75 metres to go. Don Hugo's in front, and the Luke McCarthy Trophy cabinet is now complete. complete. Don Hugo is good. Goes home to beat Minstrel, Max Delight, and Terry. Then.
Well, I've got to pay special kudos here to Michael Radley. We had him on drive and said, Michael, before the intermediate start, who do you think we should be backing pre heat one?
Post.
And he said, I'll give you two, Don Hugo and Minstrel. He said they're the two. And look at that, they run 1-2. That's a pretty good effort. Wonderful effort from Minstrel. Look, I'm not very big on the fast third quarters, as people listening would know, but this was a brilliant drive, I thought, from Denny Roberts. If she was going to beat Don Hugo, she had to take him on, turn it into a real war of attrition.
Slug.
And it looked like it was almost going to work, didn't it, up that straight? It was a battle royale, Brad.
Oh, it was an absolute cracker, Marty, and I've watched it a couple of times now, and since that, and and look, Don Hugo looked like it was holding it fairly coming, but the Minstrel just kept coming and coming. You thought, wow, this is going to be brilliant. And as you say, at the 75-metre mark, you thought, it's still alive. This race is still alive, which was just unbelievable. But well done to Mickey. That's a fantastic tipping performance, Mick.
And I know Mick's strong with the McCarthy gang, and Luke and him are very good mates. But it was a brilliant drive from Luke McCarthy as well. He just summed it up, made the moves at the right time. Tell you, talk about guts and glory. A guy by the name of Bryce Cotton seems to be going all right at the moment. Chris Pike's been watching him very closely. He joins us now to talk NBL. G'day, Chris.
Yeah, good morning, guys. And, incredible what he's doing. Another 44 points last night. It's just he's in a vein of form that's very rare right across the whole world right now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he was outstanding. Chris, Brad, mate, I'm not going to pretend I'm a basketball aficionado. I was watching that game last night in the second term. I said to Marty, geez, it was a mundane game. They couldn't hit the basket there for a while, but it was Edwards that was doing most of the damage for the Taipans.
Yeah, the Taipans, they had a really good first half. Bryce didn't score for the first 9 minutes of the game, so they came in with a game plan. Adam Ford, the Cairns coach, was an assistant at the Wildcats to Trevor Gleeson when Bryce was there, so he knows him well. So they came in with a good game plan, and they were making their shots in the first half. They were shooting the ball terrifically. Rob Edwards with the afro out and knocking down his shots, and and Pedro Bradshaw was hitting his shots, and Taron Armstrong, their young Tasmanian point guard, was terrific as well. So they did well. They just couldn't keep the pace going. So the Wildcats just turned it up a remarkable level in the second half. It went from a point where early in that third quarter, Cairns were 5 points in front. All of a sudden, the Wildcats were 18 points in front by three-quarter time. I mean, they put up 39 points in about 8 minutes of basketball to close that third quarter, and they kept it going with another 35 points in the fourth quarter. They can put up points like nobody else across the competition right now, and obviously Bryce is a huge part of that. So it was a big win last night. I mean, to turn a halftime deficit into a 36-point win in the end, and to score 128 points for the night, it was a statement performance. I mean, and they had to dig deep because the Taipans did throw everything at them in the first half, especially.
74-35. That was the score in the second half there, Wildcats way. Let's go back, and I want to talk to you about the game on Friday night. Melbourne United and Illawarra Hawks. This is first v second. That was at the Melbourne United's home court. You went for Illawarra Hawks to cause the upset. You're 100% right, 106-93. Again, off the back of a very strong second half here by the Hawks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the numbers, 60-46 in the second half, including 27-15 in the third quarter, where the Hawks blew it apart, and they made Melbourne look pretty ordinary. I mean, you do take into account that Melbourne's still missing Chris Golding, who we saw that he was in similar form to Bryce Cotton before he got injured. So you do take that into account. But for the Hawks to go down to Melbourne and perform like that, especially after how dramatic and heated things got last time they played, and they also played in the semi-finals last year. So there's a bit of spice between these two teams. But no, they used their advantages, and they got inside to Sam Froling, and he dominated Rob Lowe. So Rob Lowe's been in terrific shooting form as a big man for Melbourne, but he can't do anything to guard Sam Froling down in the block. So they kept going to Froling. I think there were 6 straight possessions in the third quarter where Sam just caught the ball in the post, turned around, hooked his shot over the top of Rob Lowe and scored. So he dominated Tyler Harvey was great again with 31 points. And the Hawks make a statement. They're now sitting on top of the ladder. To go down to Melbourne and do that to United is a terrific performance. And for Melbourne, I mean, they've now lost consecutive games for the first time in 2 years in a regular NBL season. So it doesn't happen to them very often. So they now play in a 3-down against the Phoenix today. So it's going to be fascinating to see how they bounce back.
Yeah, Chris, Marty's got the markets there. We'll talk about that very quickly. I love it when the Wildcats and the Bullets play because they worry each other with their styles of play. The Bullets are in pretty good form.
You're absolutely right. The Bullets were at a point earlier in the season, probably about a month ago, where they were floundering and they were trying to find their identity and they weren't sure how exactly they played. And they got a couple of injuries. They put Casey Prather into the power forward spot where he might be a little bit undersized, but he's got an athletic advantage over everybody that he comes up against. And all of a sudden they wanted to play a Wildcat style of game. So they've wanted to play faster. They've wanted to score the ball and they've wanted to get up as many shots as they can. And all of a sudden it's working. So they're putting up a lot of points in short time now as well. And Casey Prather's leading the charge, but Keandre Cook had 33 points in that win on Thursday night where they kept their form going against the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. They scored 116 points again, so they're averaging more than 110 points a game themselves in these last three that they've won, and they're doing it just by playing an exciting brand of basketball. They went into Melbourne last Sunday and did something similar where they blew Melbourne off the park and scored 122 points. And yeah, they've got a great point guard, Mitch Norton, who the Wildcats fans know very well, who's setting everybody else up. So they've got an option inside with Tyrell Harrison, and then they've got James Bateman, they've got Casey Prather, they've got Keandre Cook, who are all making their shots and very dangerous. So they're playing an exciting brand of basketball. Let's just hope the community up in Brisbane start to get behind them, because there wasn't a lot of people there on Thursday night, but they're playing good basketball. Let's hope that they start to get some home fans behind them moving forward. Okay, 2 games to look at very quickly. Today, first game, 11:30 tips off. Melbourne Phoenix are playing Melbourne United, the Victorian Derby, 2:30, 162. It's 3.5, and then the afternoon game, Sydney Kings at home, 135. As you mentioned, Bullets in good form, 320 away, and the line there, 6.5. 2 fascinating games. So I'll start with the throwdown in Melbourne, and the Phoenix have been playing good basketball, but they lost on Thursday in Brisbane as well, and Melbourne. I mean, like I said, this is the first time they've lost 2 in a row for 2 years. All of a sudden, there's a chance they lose 3 in a row. It's hard to fathom, but it's hard to almost fathom one of these teams losing, because they're both going well, but now need to bounce back from earlier in the weekend. I'm tempted to tip the Phoenix, but I just can't bring myself to thinking Melbourne will lose 3 in a row. So I think Melbourne find a way to dig deep and get the job done. And to finish off, Sydney and Brisbane, this is a great way to finish the round. Everything I said about the Bullets is true. They're playing some exciting basketball. They get Josh Bannon back as well, who got injured when he was playing for the Boomers 3 or 4 weeks ago, but he's now back from his ankle injury and will play some time today as well. But the Sydney Kings are finally home. They're fresh. They haven't played since last Saturday. So just on the back of their freshness, and they were starting to build some momentum, I think the Kings will win, but I think that'll be a pretty tight one and an exciting game. It's a nice way to finish the round, I think, in Sydney later today. Okay, up the lot, the 2 favourites home, 162 into 135. Chris, we'll talk again on Wednesday. Look forward to it. Thanks, guys. He's a beauty, Chris Pike. Hopefully he'll be catching up with Grant Williams next to round out the aftermath for today. We better get your Sunday saviour, Bradley. Hello?
Yes, Marty. Going to Hawkesbury Race 1, number 8. She Conquers, $4.80. A bit of value there. Now, I did this earlier, so I don't know if these have changed. So just bear with me. Now, Race 5, number 9. Tommy Hafey would say puntin'. He always used to drop the G's. Yep. That's even money for Bjorn and Hawks. Wow. Hawkesbury Race 6, number 3, First Mission, 220. So Hawkesbury Race 1, number 8, She Conquers, $4.80. Narrow Race 5, number 9, Puntin', $2. And Hawkesbury Race 6, number 3, First Mission, 220. $21.12 there, Marty. Okay, still trying to get hold of Grant. 7 away from 8 o'clock. We'll take a quick break.
Sunday morning, Tab Radio Racing and Sport is turned on, and you are listening to the dulcet tones of Marty Young and Brad Hardie on the Aftermath. Yeah, 5 away from 8 o'clock, counting it down, Aftermath. We may still try and get Grant on during Rewind. I think he's obviously
busy. And James Aldring, too, from Perth Racing CEO to join us on Racing Rewind with Lockie and Michael Heaton. Looking forward to that. Off the text line, Brad, honourable mention to the one and only Richard Bell this morning. His thoughts on triple missile in the Gold Rush were the only reason I put it in for my first four and got a 10% collect. When he speaks, I always listen. Beers are on me, mate. Well, Greg, that is perfect for Bally because he doesn't drink. So that's a cheap buy for you.
Do.
But Greg, send it to us. But Greg, it was important because the trifecta paid $132. Western Empire, Magnificent Annie, Super Smink. But you add in triple missile and you know what the first four goes to? $6,142.
If you don't mind, umpire. Well done. 610 jumps in.
Yes. Now, what's the latest on Charlie Curnow? So if you're a Carlton fan and you're listening, turn your radio off now.
He's becoming like Bruce Reid, the bowler. Made a plasticine, unfortunately. Good morning, Bruce. Just that's a little bit of a light note. Charlie's now got a little bit of a problem with the knee and he needs to go in for a clean-up. The team are going up to the Sunshine Coast this week for their community camp and he won't be going. So, unbelievable. He just got over an ankle surgery and now he's got to have knee surgery. Not huge, but I don't like it. I just don't like it when they keep going in for operations, Marty. He never ceases as far as I'm concerned. They've got to find a better way.
Yeah. So what are you thinking this is?
Well, it's obviously sort of cartilage problem around the knee and sometimes you can get a little bit of a whack and this is probably not in the medico's theory, but the kneecap can sometimes just lift up, albeit marginally, and come down and pinch your calf. Cartilage. Your cartilage underneath.
Yep.
And it looks as though it's sort of fraying. So they go in there and they trim it off and there you go in 2 weeks' time, and in a few months' time it started to fray again. So they keep going and doing it. And how many times have you heard the saying, bone on bone?
Mm-hmm.
Because eventually you don't have any cartilage left. I'm really worried about it, to be honest.
Gee whiz. Okay. Some news there. Now, you sent me that text through too from the Herald today of the big boys in pretty good shape.
Yeah, Petrarca, Ralphy. They are. It's all the clubs sort of wind up this week, naturally, and go on a little bit of a holiday. They never stop, that money, so it's going to be interesting. And it won't be long. We'll be talking tennis. And straight after the tennis, mate, she's pretty much full on. So, a lot of anticipation coming up about season 2025.
Now, England are 2 for 49 and...
Ooh.
Yeah, they've lost Crawley for 21 and Duckett for 11, so they've got Bethel in at 2 and Joe Root's not out 15. That other game, the Gabba, has that got underway? I've got no live in front of me at the moment.
Number 31.
Number 31 Australia.
My ring.
Yeah, Kawaja's 21, McSweeney 4.
21. Yeah, they started just a few moments ago. They got an extra hour started an extra hour early and trying to fit in as much play time as we possibly can. But as you said, Marty, you looked at the weather bureau, big chance of that rain coming in at some point, which might stifle things a little bit, which is not good.
Anything else happening in the AFL over there?
Oh, no, not really. A lot of the clubs having their AGMs. Yours is coming up. There's going to be interesting whether Solomon and or Western get on. There's one for Collingwood tomorrow night. Very interesting. We'll keep an eye on that one. There's quite a few. So from that point of view, mate, it's all about the off-field politics for footy clubs this week with a lot of their AGMs.
Brad, I'll be very quickly. Once you aired that there's a bit of discontent there regarding the board, I went in and had a deep dive on our board. Oh, gee whiz, it's a shocker.
Yeah.
It is a shock. It is the wokest board you could ever have.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, this is why people want change. And it's quite a big pushback these days, Marty, as you know. And with Solomon and Western, both great heritage with the club.
Yes,
they're going to be live chances. They've got to be live chances.
Yeah, get them on. Some other live sport. Milwaukee 105 leading Atlanta 100. That is deep into the fourth quarter there. Australia number 31 in the test at the Gabba. Time to go. Thanks for coming in, Brad.
All the best, Marty. See you safe.